Business of Property podcast. I'm Simon, and I've been investing in property for over 20 years. And if you're an active landlord or planning your next property investment, this podcast is for you. Welcome to my monthly look at the latest property market stats from PATMA. This time, reviewing the latest data at the end of April and the very start of May 2025. Let's dive straight in and start with new property listings. After a noticeable reduction over the 2-week holiday leading up to Easter, new listings have bounced back quite nicely to their previous level at about 40,500 or so last week as April ended and May actually did start. Moving on to average new listing prices. It looks like there have been some optimistic listings coming onto the market just in the last few days. This would be something to keep an eye on as May progresses. Of course, it might just be an anomaly for a single week of data, which does happen sometimes when looking at sort of small time frames such as a week. But it will be interesting to see how things do progress over May and whether it becomes a trend or just a 1-week blip. Comparing April to March, though, 1, 2, and 3 bed new listing prices are all slightly up. 1 bed's seeing the least change with roughly a 0.36% increase over the month. 3 beds getting the best boost at 0.78% up from March. And that means that the average 3-bed listing price in April ended up being £345,000 and 129. So a few thousand up from the number in March. The number of sales are also looking better, having also had a bit of a dip over the Easter break, but now seemingly bounced back to their previous level. So hopefully that's a positive sign for things to come for the rest of May. Coming on to price reductions. In March, 19% of all listings saw a price reduction, which historically is a little bit high. But in April, it was slightly up on that, with 20% of all listings getting a price reduction. Probably not enough of a change to read too much into, but definitely something to keep an eye on in May. Especially if new listing prices do come on to the market at a more sort of optimistic level, we might also get an increase in reductions if the market isn't prepared to meet those higher asking prices, and hence there have to be a higher level of corrections. The last time we saw a reduction rate over 20% was back in October 2023, and last year April only had 17% of listings reduced, and even May only reached 19% of listings being reduced. So I think this year is looking a bit less positive on that front, despite the fact that a number of other indicators are looking quite positive. So it'll be very interesting to see how May actually progresses. Average time on market is one of those indicators that is looking a bit more positive, with April seeing a slight reduction from March, where March was 56 days average time on the market before property was selling, and April is now down to 55 days on the market. Of course, it's a small change, but at least it is going in the right direction. And that might be sort of suggesting, as this is sort of a generally low number, that the market overall is finding a good balance and hence sort of moving and progressing on things fairly well. On the number of fall-throughs, I think the only thing to notice here is that the stamp duty change at the start of April didn't really cause a big enough problem to show up in these fall-through rates and these numbers of fall-throughs each week. There was a lot of press and a lot of noise about these these changes being terrible and putting a lot of pressure on people to complete, and I'm sure it did. But the sort of potential consequence of people not completing would, of course, be that the sale would fall through. And that doesn't seem to have shown up, at least. So I'm sure it did happen to some people, but I think a lot of sales either made it before the deadline or managed to work something out and keep that sale alive, because there was no real spike in fall-throughs around that time. So I think that's a very positive thing for the market going forwards, that hopefully the change in stamp duty rates hasn't done too much in the way of damage. Finishing up with a very quick look at rentals as well. The average rental listing price for a 3-bed in April was just over 1% up from March, such that the April rate was £1,606 per month. 1 and 2 beds are also up a little, but interestingly, the 4-bed rental market saw a slight fall in April, or at least fall in asking prices for an average rental property of 4 beds in April. I'm not sure we can read too much into that at the moment, but it's probably an interesting factor to sort of dig into on a more local level if you are looking at having or investing in a larger rental property. These are buy-to-let figures rather than HMO figures, so that is also worth bearing in mind. Remember that you can get the very latest stats for free every Monday morning by starting a free trial for PATMA at patma.co.uk, and make sure you tick the box to say you want to join the mailing list, and then every Monday morning you will get all of these stats, all of these graphs, right up to the day before, arriving on Monday in your mailbox. Or you can also get that email by joining the mailing list for this podcast at thebusinessofproperty.com. With a PATMA Deal Finder Pro account, you can also get localized property market data just for your area. So you can dig into more of the characteristics that might be affecting your particular investments. I hope you found this roundup useful, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time.